About the author. Ralph Waldo Emerson at a lecture in 1871 said, "If a man can write a better book, or preach a better sermon, or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, even if this man built his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door." The author, Isaac Christopher Lubogo, has written such a book. He is an indie person who believes, as Bernard Shaw best put it, most men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that are not and ask why not. Mr. Isaac C. Lubogo is what one would best describe as an animis optimum legalis who thrives under animis opibusque parati. He is an attorney at law, lecturer of law, and founder of the much coveted sui generis law app, downloadable on both Google Play Store and Apple App Store. He holds Bachelor of Laws, Master of Laws, and is a Doctor of Laws Fellow. Dedication. Always remember this quoted dialogue from the movie The Great Debaters. Who is the judge? The judge is God. And why is he God? Because he decides who wins or loses, not my opponent. And who is your opponent? He doesn't exist. And why doesn't he exist? Because he's a mere descending voice of the truth that I speak. The author dedicates this book to his children, Zion Margaret Lubogo and Israel Y.K. Lubogo.
A Treatise to My Learned Friend and the Attorney at Law by Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Introduction. More often than not, the law is usually argued to be a sworn commitment to a set of absolute fixed ideas within rigidly narrow perimeters. The letter of the law is often framed in absolutes, stated in black and white, but very often served in shades of grey. We are humans in our weakest moments, and perhaps our noblest. We are indeed humans. That is why we tamper with those black and white absolutes with the aid of jurors, known as the Ubuntu system, in order to humanize our judicial system to render the system fair, compassionate, and imperfect. Ubuntu is altruism, a regard for and devotion to the interest of others. What it means to be fully human is to strive to live by ideas and not to measure one's life by what you have attained in terms of your desires. But these small moments of integrity, compassion, rationality, and even self-sacrifice, because in the end, the only way we can measure the significance of our own lives is by valuing the lives of others. And whatever law we have should be the one that is willing to give up selfish self-interest for the welfare of others. Because in the end, I am because we are. And for some reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you are meant to be. The best demonstration of Ubuntu in our daily life is best captured in the coin "a pound of flesh" in William Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice. The character Portia says this line on the instance of Shylock, the Jew, for a payment by Antonio's flesh. This is the central part of the play. In Act 4, Scene 1, Portia concludes the conflict between Shylock and Antonio by saying to Shylock,
"Take thy bond, take thou thy pound of flesh."
In law, when something is owed, it needs to be paid back at the very cost. Shakespeare coined this phrase in a figurative way and refers to a lawful but unreasonable recompenses during the 18th century and very much so even now. Here, the mention of the flesh suggests vengefulness, bloodthirstiness, and an inflexible behavior to get back borrowed money, a debt. Shylock expresses a spiteful penalty from Antonio, and then Portia repeats his line with a solution in Act 4, Scene 1 of Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. The lines 295 to 303. Shylock speaks. Most land judge, a saint is come prepare. To which Portia replies,
This bond doth give thee here no jot of blood. The words expressly are a pound of flesh.
Antonio cannot pay back Shylock's money, and the usurer demands his flesh as a fine. Portia's skillful legal act of manipulating hair-splitting saves the day, as she offers a solution that if Shylock sheds even a single drop of Christian blood after cutting his flesh, then under Venetian law, the state of Venice would take away his property and land. The themes or central ideas of this phrase include revenge, justice, and mercy. This phrase, a pound of flesh, is a figurative method of expressing a spiteful penalty or a harsh demand, the consequence of non-payment on a distressed bargain. However, the usurer asks for a real pound of flesh as security when merchant Antonio comes and borrows money. Though it is clever marketing, it is false advertising too. Antonio accepts the brutal terms of Shylock, yet being aware of the fact that Shylock despises him. Ultimately, Antonio is forced by circumstance to default, while the usurer refuses the merchant's beg for mercy. Dressed as a famous judge and an indirect beneficiary of Antonio, Portia takes a letter of bond on the instance of Shylock and brings an absurd conclusion. She maintains that the bond specifies a pound of flesh, but not a jot of blood. The symbolism here is that the flesh is a symbol of revenge and the inflexibility which is in the law, and the tone of this phrase seems to be vengeful, which in most cases the law seems to want to achieve. There is also a concept of mercy, likened with the Christian idea of salvation. In John chapter 8, Jesus is quoted in the Holy Bible saying, "He that is without sin among you, let him cast the first stone." The woman found in the act of idolatry, at that time, a most serious felony or crime, and punishable by stoning to death. And later he says to her, "Where are your accusers?" To which she replied, "No more man, my Lord," after no one had remained to condemn her for fear of their own inadequacies. Jesus told the woman, "Neither do I condemn thee, go and sin no more." When you relate this to Matthew 18, from verse 21 to 35, talks about a parable of the unforgiving, unmerciful servant, who made the king very furious because the servant had earlier been forgiven, yet on his part, he found out that the servant had refused to forgive another petty debtor. Mahatma Gandhi said, "If we follow the principle of an eye for an eye, the whole world would be blind." Revenge is often regarded as a brutal thought for human mindset, but proper compensation and reimbursement for loss is seen as justice. My India person's thoughts. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, "Wanting to become a lawyer is divinely inspired." I am deeply honored and exceedingly humbled to be able to jot a few words, but allow me say that it is indeed you, the reader, that indeed deserves the real thank you. Each one of you in your various capacities have indeed been a blessing to sojourn with me in this book, and for me to find the right words to express my appreciation almost fails me. But in case I find the right words, you must remember that lawyers are trained to earn their living by the pen and by their tongue. It was you, the reader, and the well-wishers that had the lion's heart. I only heard the lark to be called upon to give the roar. I also hope that I have suggested to you the lion, which is you, the right places to use your crows. Part 1. The Attorney at Law. It is said many go through law school successfully, but only few become lawyers. Little wonder, American author Henry David Thoreau's warning in 1849 was, "The lawyer's truth is not truth, but consistence of a consistent expendis." And in Main of Good Hope, author Daniel Aaron quoted American religious leader Theodore Parker's warning, "If powerful people will not write justice with black ink on white paper, ignorant and violent men will write it on the soil, in letters of blood, and illuminate their rude legislation with burning curses, policies, and towns." Fieldman on Legal Theories 5th edition, on page 430, argues that if the lawyer commences to be identified as he predominantly is at the present time, with the defense of existing orders and vested interest against the urgent needs and interests of societies that must lift themselves from poverty and stagnation, higher level of economic or social development, often within a desperate short time, the lawyer will eventually be reduced to an inferior and despised status in the developing nations. The contemporary lawyer in all states must emphatically in developing nations become an active and responsible participant with the shaping and formulating of developmental plans. He must guide and counsel, but also warn where necessary. While Professor Sempambwa said, "We are ready to be replaced." You could be the next legal guru. Here is a chance to go out and be the best. Don't just be a lawyer. Be the lawyer. Legal realist Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, widely regarded as the wisest lawyer in American history, said, "Wanting to become a lawyer is divinely inspired." It is not that Holmes was a theologian, but he believed that there was a bit of divinity in the study of law, and one could ascertain in the study of precedents a hint of universal law or echoes of the infinite. Now, whether it is true or not, I am probably not the right person to say so, but in case I find the right words to say so, you must remember that lawyers are trained to earn their living by the pen on their tongue. It's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to write you this humble dossier. It is you, fellow comrades in the struggle, who have the lion's heart. I am just probably lucky to be called upon to give the roar, and I hope that one day I shall suggest to the lion the right places to use its claws. The Odoki Report on Legal Education Training and Accreditation, Chapter 4, page 34, has noted, "The legal profession education has undergone profound changes in Uganda since 1970. This follows the recommendation of the Gower Committee on Legal Education that the system of training prospective lawyers by the method of apprenticeship should be replaced by a system of institutional training. The shortcomings of apprenticeship were identified to include unsystematic method of training with limited exposure of supervision by senior lawyers, and shortage of good chambers to which students could be attached. This gave birth to the Law Development Center postgraduate bar course. It thus became a mandatory qualification for admission to practice law in Uganda. The LDC Act and the Advocates Act 1970 were passed to give effect to those recommendations. In 1972, the center commenced conducting the pre-enrollment course under the name Postgraduate Bar Course, leading to the award of the Diploma in Legal Practice. It is important to note that these shortcomings in the various law schools across the country still exist, and thus the need to further strengthen the lawyer in imparting practical skills for prospective advocates. Omrod once reported in 1971, "The modern training of a lawyer consists of 3 stages. 1. Academic stage. 2. Professional stage, comprising of A. Institutional training and B. In-training. The third and final stage, continuing legal education." The Gower Report recommended that the main objective of the bar course should be to impart practical skills which would enable the lawyer to put in practice his knowledge of the substantive law acquired at the university. In paragraph 59, the report said, "As we have already said, we envisage the role of the pre-enrollment course as a method of instructing potential practitioners in practical skills needed in the various branches of legal service. We envisage that this should be achieved not so much by telling students, but rather by making them learn by doing. In other words, they should be made to undertake practical exercises under the supervision of a teacher who knows how the particular exercise ought to be done." Dr. Okochunkwa Oko, writing on legal education and training in Nigeria in 1994, defended this objective as follows. "Ideally, vocational institutions like the Nigerian Law School aspires to achieve the following: teach the students to apply the laws, principles and concepts of real situations, provide training on the basic skills of legal practice, such as drafting, counseling, the techniques of advocacy, and alert students on the permissible scope of professional behavior and conduct." This overview demands lawyers to get ready for the rigorous training in order to become effective attorneys at law, which is every barrister's concern. The dilemma we face demands to note that the times have changed, and the tides clearly show winds of change blowing to which every good lawyer must adapt. This, coupled with also the influx of the lawyers already on a flooded field. The challenge we have is that our service shall no longer be required irrespective to what university we attended, but by how good the services we are providing and the application of Ubuntu Bulamu. To be or not to be an attorney at law, therefore now becomes every barrister's concern. This means we are challenged to mobilize our resources and mobilize all the constructive forces that we can muster and make a significant contribution, firstly, to ourselves as barristers in the making and to the wider diasporas. For those who appear disadvantaged, remember Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "He who gets behind in a race must forever remain behind or run faster than the man in front." We must develop and maintain a sense of dignity and self-respect for this noble profession. We must not allow any forces to cause us to compromise our professional ethics in a bid to corrupt our services. We must believe in ourselves that we can make a positive impact in people's lives and walk the streets of life every day with this sense of noblehood, destined for a purpose that only you were destined to accomplish by the Almighty God for the greater mankind. New opportunities will have to open that have not been opened before. The only challenge we have is to be ready to enter those doors when they open. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in lecture in 1871, said, "If a man can write a better book or preach a better sermon or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, even if he builds his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door." This will become increasingly true. I mean, we have to work hard, burn the midnight oil, take advantage of the new opportunities. We must set out to let our lives work so well that nobody could do it better. We need to do a good job, not merely to be a good lawyer. If you were making up your mind to be merely a good magistrate, a good judge, or a good law teacher, you have already flunked your matriculation exam for entrance into the University of Integration. You must set out to do a good job and do the job so well that the dead, the living, or the unborn could not do it any better. For whatever task lies in your hand, do it to the best of your ability. If it falls in your luck to be a street sweeper, go out and sweep the streets like Michelangelo carved marble. Sweep the streets like Raphael painted pictures. Sweep the streets like Beethoven composed music and like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Do your job so well that all the hosts of heaven will have to pause and say, "Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well." Well, if you can't be a pine on top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best scrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by the size that you win or fail. Just be the best at whatever you are. And as we strive, regardless, we must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline, coupled with patience, just like Nelson Mandela painfully waited for the independence of South Africa. And in Nelson Mandela's own words, he said, "During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against white dominion, and I have fought against black dominion. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if need be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die." We must realize that our fate now is tied up with our future destiny, and our success is inextricably bound. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make a pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. Bernard Shaw once said, "Most men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that are not and ask, why not?" Let us be dreamers and indie persons. Coretta Scott King, the wife of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., quotes her husband in a bid to explain her husband's philosophy of nonviolence from a sermon he preached of the interrelated structure of reality in his homely sermon, "The Man Who Was a Fool." "All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be." In the sermon, Love in Action, Dr. King preached that one day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right if the head is totally wrong. Only through the bringing together intelligence and goodness shall man arise to the fulfillment of his true nature. Who doubts that this toughness of mind is one of man's greatest needs? Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains people more than having to think. We need to have a tough mind, characterized by incisive thinking, realistic appraisal, and decisive judgment. The tough mind is sharp and penetrating, breaking through the crusts of legends and myths and sifting the true from the false. One of the great needs of mankind is to be lifted above the morass of false propaganda, but we must not stop only with the cultivation of a tough mind. We must also have a tender heart. Tough-mindedness without tender-heartedness is cold and detached. Adolf Hitler realized that soft-mindedness was so prevalent among his followers that he said, "I use emotion for the many and reserve reason for the few." In Mein Kampf, he asserted, "By means of shrewd lies," unremittingly replied, "It is possible to make people believe that heaven is hell, and hell heaven. The greater the lie, the more readily will it be believed." A tough-minded person always examines the facts before he reaches conclusions. He post-judges. We are called to be people of conviction, not conformity, of social nobility, not social respectability. We are demanded to live differently and accordingly to a higher loyalty. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. Longfellow said, "In this world, a man must either be an anvil or a hammer." This was to mean that he is either a molder of society or molded by society. Who doubts that today most men are anvils and are changed by the patterns of the majority? Or to change the figure, most people are thermometers that record or register the temperature of majority opinions. They are not thermostats that transform and regulate the society. Most people fear nothing more terribly than to take a position which could make them stand out sharply and clearly from the prevailing opinion. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against any form of tyranny over the mind of a man." A person who blindly accepts the opinions of the majority in fear and timidity, follows the path of expediency and social approval, is a mental slave. We need to be exemplary in life, or is a flashing light to plague the dozing consciousness of mankind. Nothing in the entire world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Shakespeare said, "For sweetest things turn sourest by their deeds. Lilies, they first smell far worse than weeds." The things we do, we should do in altruism, that is, in regard and for the devotion of the interest of others. What it means to be fully human is to strive to live by ideas and ideals and not to measure your life by what you attain in terms of your desires. But these small amounts of integrity, compassion, rationality, even self-sacrifice, because in the end, the only way we can measure the significance of our own lives is by valuing the lives of others, and whatsoever faith one believes should bind us all. And the measure of our character should be the willingness to give up ourselves for others and our country. Seek the truth. William Cullen Bryant affirmed, "Truth, crushed to earth, will rise again." Thomas Carlyle wrote, "No lie you can speak or act, but it will come after longer or shorter circulation, like a bill drawn on nature's reality, and be presented there for payment. And a lie will travel half across the world before the truth puts on its shoes, but the truth will always arrive there many days before the lie." Over 200 years ago, Dr. Joseph Warren, president of the Massachusetts Congress, once said to his fellow Americans, "On you depends the fortunes of America." He told his fellow Americans, "You are to decide the important questions on which rests the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn." And he added, "Act worthy of yourselves." Over several years now, it's notable whether lawyers today can meet Dr. Warren's challenge, whether our significance in the legal profession has indeed acted worthy of its calling. The noble profession, and rightly so, demands high standards. Indeed, this high standard makes us remember the central question of the public service. Why are we here? We are here to be trained to serve. President J.F. Kennedy once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." We are here to serve our nation and not the other way around. We are here to lift the weak and build peace. We are here not only to make justice be seen, but most importantly, to show justice. And as Dr. Warren said, we are here to act today for the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn. We are here to seize the future so that every citizen of this nation can dream heroic dreams and have faith in the legal profession. We must correct this old age saying that says, lawyers are liars. If we do less, we betray the memory of those who have given so much. The legal profession belongs to you, and your becoming a barrister is now your right and responsibility. You have been given a temporary custody of this noble profession, and that's why the world will always refer you as my learned friend. Part 2. Awaken the giant within you. It's time to awaken the giant within you. Here is a chance to destroy the blocks, break down the walls, and to let go of the rope and dance your way to success. Get ready for a rendezvous with destiny. Orison Swait Madden once said, "Deep within a man dwells those slumbering powers that would astonish him, that he never dreamed of possessing, forces that would revolutionize his life if arose and put into action." We all have dreams. We all want to believe deep down in our souls that we have a special gift, that we can make a difference, that we can touch someone in a special way, and that we can make the world a better place at one time in our lives. We all had a vision of the quality of life that we desire and deserve, yet many of us, those dreams have become so shrouded in the frustrations and routines of daily life that we no longer even make an effort to accomplish them. For far too many, the dream has dissipated, and with it, so has the will to shape our destinies. Many have lost that sense of certainty that creates the winner's edge. My life's quest is to restore that dream and make it real, to get each of you to remember and use the unlimited power that lies sleeping within us all. Many of us are seated on a potential without really knowing how much worth we can be to our families, friends, and fellow citizens. Maybe because someone has told us that we shall never amount to anything, or perhaps because we have tried many times to achieve some goals but have failed. I wish to announce to you that this is your message, and I wish to present to you an arsenal of tools for lasting change as well as lessons for enriching the quality of your life and revitalize your hidden potential. We all are here to contribute something unique, and deep within each of us lies a special gift. We all have a sleeping giant within us. Each one of us has a talent, a gift, and our very own bit of genius just waiting to be tapped. We all have been created unique, but with equal opportunities for experiencing life to the best. You are much more than you are demonstrating mentally, emotionally, and physically. The poorest man in the world is a man without dreams. But the most frustrated man in the world is a man with a dream that does not become a reality. Dr. Miles Monroe once said, "The wealthiest spot on earth is not the gold mine of South America, nor is it the oil reservoir in Iraq, not even the diamond mines in South Africa, but it is the cemetery or the graveyard, because in the graveyard lies dreams that have never been fulfilled, books that have never been written, visions that have never been made a reality, business ideas and investments that have never become manifested, ideas that simply died as ideas." I would like to agree with Dr. Miles and rightly point out that any person living today is potentially capable of adding to that buried untapped wealth. But I hope not you, because I am challenging you not to let your dream go into the cemetery. However, you need to take a decision that you will die empty, so that by the time you go to the cemetery, you have nothing left. You will have lived your life to the fullest, given your best, and maximized your potential. Potential is untapped power, unused success. It is all that you can be but are not. It is what you really are but nobody knows. It is what you could be but have not yet become. Potential is never what has been done or what you have accomplished. The greatest enemy of progress is your last success. Never be impressed by your last accomplishments, but rather let it motivate you. Inside you is the untapped treasure not yet released. It's like a timed bomb ready to explode. It's like an atomic bomb or a nuclear bomb waiting for the right critical mass to shatter and cause a non-stop series of explosions. But this will only happen if you take notice that you can do it. You are special, and believe in yourself irrespective of the past or the present circumstances. Don't be intimidated by the fear of the unknown. Be bold. Embrace your challenges with zeal and confidence, trusting in God that one day the world will hear about you. Many dead people arrived on earth, but few showed up. Many were born, but very few became what they were really born to be. Most of them died photocopies or duplicates of others. The reason for this is because most of us are literally living other people's dreams or opinions of what they want us to become. The majority of us are victims of our societies, cultures, and so much more. But I am here to announce to you that you need to decree independence by living what you're dreaming. It's only by doing so that you will identify what you were created to be and thereby leaving your footprint in the sands of history. Don't just exist to make a living. The truth is that everything that God created has potential. The seed of everything is in itself. God put in everything its destiny. For example, if I put a seed in my hand, it is a fact that I have a seed. A fact is the description of the present state of things. But the truth of it is that, in return, I have a tree in my hands. The truth is the reality of its destiny, and therefore it is a fact that you are indeed a student. But the truth is that you were a diamond hidden in the beginner. It is the truth that you are a great man, a great woman. You are an accomplished business entrepreneur, a certified accountant, an advocate, a professional teacher, social worker, a politician, or whatever you choose to be. So if somebody asks you who you were, ask them, do you want the fact or the truth? Every diamond begins as a piece of wood, as a product of a stable compound compressed upon materials that are nothing at first. Then, out of pressure, it's compressed over a long period of time to form a diamond. So the next time you experience pressure, simply know that you are about to become a diamond. Pressure is good. It is what fosters you to become a diamond. You must realize that sometimes the people we are sitting next to may be your next bosses. We never really know all about them. What we know about them is what they have revealed to us, not what they can become. So be careful. There is a proverb which says, "Never kick a man who is seated, he may soon get up." Whatever your dreams, they are indications of your purpose. That's why God does not create birds anymore, nor trees anymore. He finished. You too are a finished product with potential. The greatest tragedy is watching potential die untapped. But worse still is to watch potential live unreleased. This means you need to maximize every fiber of your life. Fully use all your gifts, talents, abilities, capabilities. You have to pursue maximum living. Be all you can be. We all have the ability to maximize living. But the question is, can we make that decision? Make sure you don't die until you are not only a seed or a tree, but a forest. Remember that in every society there are norms, cultures, and laws that kill or hinder our gifts. Sometimes our own parents, siblings, teachers, and many more trying to hinder our potential. Watch out for them. Do not settle for being a pigeon. Be an eagle. Pigeons flock, but an eagle flies out at a time when the tide gets tough, and the eagle flies even higher. People will look at you as if you were crazy. Our pigeons, but eagles will say, "When the going gets tough, the tough gets going." Inside each of us is potential, and that potential is screaming to be released. It's these dreams that are the virtual manifestation of the seed of destiny. They are the evidence that inside of you is a passion to fulfill. All of us are created with capacity and ability to conceive visions, aspirations, and dreams so that we can extend beyond our present situations. One of the greatest gifts is the gift of imagination, to explore the future while living in the present. You have to take a tour in the future you desire and come back and make a decision. Take a look at what you want to become 10 years from now. Visit the job you want. Dream a little bit, then come back and sit in the chair and say that this is where I'm going. It's impossible to hit what you don't aim at or to go where you do not know. So use the God-given power of living in a tour. Therefore, use it and be motivated by yourself, your own potential. Dream big and attempt what people say is impossible. Don't fear your dreams. Don't fear your destiny. Please note that the moment you start dreaming, you will definitely get opposition. Remember, Misery likes company. Company, don't keep company with it. It's better to try and fail than to never try and never know that you could have succeeded. Also, usually people will criticize you if you don't do anything. And even when you do something, they will still criticize you. So, do something anyway. Never accept people's negative words. When you accept somebody's rationalization to justify their failures, you become a failure yourself. Don't suffocate your potential. Don't live in a minimum performance level. You were created to do something unique. You were born to accomplish something that nobody else can do. You were never designed to live on people's handouts, but on your own God-given dream. Have passion for your dream. People without passion are always discouraged by problems. Don't be satisfied by nothing less than the full accomplishment of your desire in your dreams. Watch out for negative influences of some of your colleagues. Inside you may be the facts of a pale, poor, young, isolated, abused, thin, fat, and so on. Whatever negative word people use to degrade you, those facts are still filled with the truth of potential, untapped, just about to explode, and so don't give up. Henry David Thoreau once said, "I know of no one more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of a man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. And therefore, here are the things you must do in order to awaken the giant within you. These guidelines will be useful. 1. Purpose. Have a clear vision of your destiny. Purpose means having a sense of meaning to your life. You have to see your end. You were not a mistake, not an experiment. You were a destiny missile about to be launched in the horizons of excellence."
The author lays out purpose as the foundation of the 11 guidelines. You cannot take a journey if you don't know where you want to go or what you want to get when you arrive there. Purpose, therefore, becomes the basis for you to start.
2. Potential. This is the ability to complete your dreams. Purpose determines potential. You don't get talent, gifts, or vision from school. The ability to do it is within you.
While education sharpens already given talent and gifts, education alone can't be the basis of success. Ever wondered how there are certain rich businessmen and women who had little or no education, or why an uneducated person could lead a country as president? The potential was inside them.
3. Passion. Desire to accomplish at the point of death and to be willing to die for what you're going for or the dream that you want to accomplish. People without passion are easily discouraged. Passion is tested by problems, but don't be afraid. 4. Planning. You must have your plan. You must have a documented future on paper. What is it that you want to be 40 days or 40 years from today? 5. You have to be careful with the people in your life. You need people. However, be careful with some. Show me your friends and I will show you your future. If you desire to fly high, don't keep company with chicken. Don't be with dream killers. Don't be with people who specialize in abortion or to kill your dreams. Be acquainted with all people, but let your hands number your friends. Always be mindful of the books you read, the videos, DVDs and tapes that you view, or the music that you listen to. Choose the right kind of inputs. Keep company with people of similar visions like yours. Befriend people who have accomplished something. And remember, sometimes your worst enemies may be your family. 6. Persistence. There is no success without an aggressive spirit. You need to endure discouragements under pressure. There will be all kinds of opportunities to quit, but persist. Never give up. 7. Principle. Establish principles to live by, such as dignity, honesty, respect. Give yourself principles to live by, starting by committing to God all your works. Never compromise your life. 8. Prayer. You have to retreat to the source of your dreams and vision. You must have a constant communion with the one who gave you the dream. You need this greater power to strengthen you. 9. Raise your standards. This means write down all the things you no longer accept, tolerate, and all that you aspire to become. Most times, it takes one to take a deliberate step in asserting his right. For example, a black lady by the name of Rosa Parks in 1955 stepped onto a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and refused to give up her seat for a white person as she was legally required to. Her one quiet act of civil disobedience sparked a firestorm of controversy and became a symbol for generations to follow. Her decision to hold herself to a higher standard compelled her to act. The 10th guideline: change your limiting beliefs and adopt empowering beliefs and decisions. If you raise your standards but don't really believe you can meet them, you have already sabotaged yourself. We must develop a sense of certainty that we can and will meet the new standards before we actually even do. Benjamin Disraeli once said, "Nothing can resist the human will that will stake even its existence on its stated purpose." It is also said, where there is a will, there will always be a way. And like Hannibal said, have this attitude that we will either find a way or make one. It is not where you start out, but the decision you make about where you are determined to end up. It's in the moments of decisions that your destiny is shaped. Remember, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote, "Concerning your acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too." Decisions act as the source of problems and incredible joys and opportunities. True decisions are the catalyst for turning our dreams into reality. The difference in results that people pronounce comes down to what they have done differently from others in the same situation. And it's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but what we do consistently. As you move on, don't allow the programming of your past to control your present and future. Thomas Edison once said, "I am not discouraged because every wrong attempt discarded is another step forward." Decide that your life will ultimately be shaped not by the conditions, but by your decisions. Use whatever life gives you. In the moment, be optimistic. If you're going to make an error in life, err on the side of overestimating your capabilities, as long as it doesn't jeopardize your life.
Take a moment to think about this. If you are going to make an error in life, err on the side of overestimating your capabilities. It is common practice for one to underestimate themselves, their skills and talents, and the negative thought that others are better than yourself. The author highlights in his guideline that it is better to overestimate your capabilities as long as it doesn't jeopardize your life.
A story is told of one of the richest guys in the USA today, who, when a boy, was asked by a brass band leader whether he would play the bass flute since the rightful person had not come that day, and yet the band was to play that very day during a very major ceremony. He said, "I can, and I will." And then he was quickly let into the band as a last-minute substitute. And later, it turned out that the guy caused a lot of disaster during this ceremony, as he did not actually know how to play the flute right. When he was asked later why he did not say that he did not know, he said, "Well, I did not know I could not play." The lesson is, don't let "I can't" stand in the way of "I can." Be optimistic. Optimistics are those who, despite having no influence of success or even references of failure, manage to ignore those references, leaving unassembled such cognitive tabletops as "I failed" or "I can't succeed." Instead, optimists produce faith references, summing forth their imagination to picture themselves doing something different next time and succeeding. It's this spatial ability, this unique focus, which allows them to persist until eventually they gain the distinction that puts them over the top. Optimistics operate with beliefs such as, "The past does not equate to the future." Archimedes once said, Give me a lever long enough and a prop strong enough. I can single-handedly move the world.
Archimedes' argument is that with the right tools, nothing is impossible. If you gave yourself better tools like better friends, positive thoughts, read better books, and learned more creative ways of working, you would move the world as Archimedes intended.
Society may predict, but it's only you who can determine your destiny. Be determined. Be strong. Determination is the wake-up call to the human will. Nothing great will ever be achieved without great men, and men are great only if they are determined to be so, said Charles de Gaulle. The 11th and final guideline. Change your strategy. In order to keep your commitment, you need the best strategy for achieving results. In life, loads of people know what to do, but few people actually do what they know. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. If someone is doing better than we are in any area of life, it is simply because they have a better way of evaluating what things mean and what they should do about it. Lastly, what is it that you fantasize about? A first-class degree, a good job, a posh car, a cool house, a cute baby and a cute guy? I don't know. I must warn you, fantasies have to be unrealistic, because the moment you get what you seek, you don't want it anymore. In order to continue to exist, desire must have its objects perpetually absent. It is not the it that you want, it's the fantasy of it. So desire supports crazy fantasies. This is what Pascal means when he says, "We are only truly happy when daydreaming about future happiness." Or why we say, "The hunt is sweeter than the kill." Be careful with what you wish for, not because you will get it, but because you are doomed not to want it once you get it. Living by your wants will never make you happy. What it means to be fully human is to strive to live by ideas and ideals, and not to measure your life by what you attain in terms of your desires. But these small moments of integrity, compassion, rationality, and even self-sacrifice. Because in the end, the only way we can measure the significance of our lives is by valuing the lives of others, and whatever faith one may be, one belief should bind us, and the measure of our character should be the willingness to give up ourselves for others and our country. Part 3. Dreams of Destiny. You need to have dreams of destiny. Did you know that you were designed to live on a dream that God put in your heart? Don't be satisfied with anything else than the full accomplishment of what you have in your heart. I am not talking about the dreams that come when you lay asleep. I am talking about the one that occurs when you are awake. This is not a nightmare. It is not even daydreaming. It's a phenomenon that involves the whole of you, the subconscious mind, your belief system, and your attitude. It's the dream that creates the future. It is the dream that can come true. Hidden in your dreams is your degree, your master's, the PhD, the bread of your children, hope for yourself, a solution to your country's problems, peace to your neighbors. Remember, everything you see around you started as a dream, an idea, and inside you is loaded with good stuff. So no one can benefit from it unless you release it by dreaming and pursuing your dreams. In the 1800s, James Allen wrote, "The dreamers are the saviors of the world. Humanity cannot forget its dreamers. It cannot let their trials fade and die. It lives in them. It knows them as the realities which it shall one day see and know. Cherish your visions, ideas, the music that stars in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loneliness that drapes your purest thoughts. Out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment of them. If you remain to them, your world will at last be rebuilt. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become." Dreams are indications of your purpose. Dreams are real visual manifestations of the seeds of destiny. Dreams are the evidence that inside you is planted the spirit and the heart of a great person to fulfill something awesome. The reason why the natural instinct to dream existed in you as a child is because everyone that enters this planet has the same dream and passion to become what they feel in their hearts. Every individual is a living treasure chest. Each person arrives with a brand new product, equipped to perform all that is demanded of you. This means that inside of you is something that God has intended for you to become someone important. We all have dreams. We all want to believe deep down in our souls that we have a special gift, that we can make a difference, that we can touch others in a special way, and that we can make the world a better place. You and I have or have once had a dream, a vision of the quality of life that you desire and deserve to have. And yet for many of us, those dreams have become so shrouded in the frustrations and the routines of continued frustrations, and so we can no longer believe in these dreams. These dreams have dissipated, and with it the will to shape our destiny. Many of us have lost the sense of certainty that makes us true winners. My life's quest is to try and restore your dream, a dream of the kind of life that you want to live. A dream is a mental picture or an image of a desired future. It is the bridge between where you are today and where you want to be in the future. Carl Sandburg once said, "Nothing happens unless first a dream." We are what and where we are because we have imagined it, and George Bernard Shaw said, "Some men see things that never were and say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not?" To a person who aspires to a vision, each day is more elevated than the one before. What is your aspiration? Maybe it is a dream you have forgotten or have begun to relinquish. If that dream were alive today, what would your life be like? Take a moment now, just to dream and think about what you really want for your life. We are created with the capacity and ability to conceive visions and dreams so that we can extend beyond our present situations. One of the greatest and most powerful gifts of creation is the power of imagination. Why is this so? So that you can explore the possibilities of the impossibles. Imagination is the ability to live the present, go into the future that you desire, take a tour of it, come back, and make a decision to go there in reality. Take a tour of what you want to be 10 months from now or 10 years from now. Write it down. Take this imaginary walk and see the doctorate degree. Visit the house, the crib, the mansion, the palace that you want. Walk through the business that you want. Take a look at the position that you own in the government. Dream a little. Then after finishing, come back and sit in your chair and say that is where I'm going. The greatest tragedy on earth is not death, but life without a dream. The poorest person on earth is not a person without money, but the one without a dream. The most frustrated person you will ever meet is a person with a dream that has never come true. The happiest person you will also know is a person whose dreams have come true. It is impossible to go where you don't know. It is impossible to hit what you don't aim at. And it is impossible to move to a destination that you don't want or don't know. So use your God-given power of imagination. Remember, Jesus Christ, the greatest manifestation of the ultimate man, who maximized himself awesomely, made this statement: "Unless you become like a child, you cannot come into the kingdom of God." The principle of this statement was that the problem with us adults is that we are too adult. Because the younger you were, the more you dream. Children dream big, and they believe their dreams. And yet, the older they grow, life minimizes their dreams. They destroy the capacity to dream, and as a matter of fact, most people are poorer the older they grow because they cease to dream. If you can dream it, you can do it. If you can do it, you can have it. A dream is a bridge between where you were and where God wants you to be in the future. A dream is critical towards success. Do you want to be a successful businessman, own a company, build a house, buy a car, marry or be married? It's exactly what I'm talking about. Most people are unsuccessful because they are in troubled waters between where they are and where they want to be, yet without a bridge. Your dream is your bridge. Some have bridges, but their bridges are broken. Broken because they are not constructed on solid foundations. Some bridges are too narrow to carry the vision. You need to construct a bridge that will help you fulfill your destiny by realizing your full potential. I am here to challenge you to become like a child. Dream big and grow big. Believe in your dream. Be like a child again. Your dream shows you a glimpse of destiny. Your dream provides a platform for you to release your potential and thereby fulfill your purpose. Remember, if a man does only what is required of him, he is a slave. The moment he does more, he is a free man. It is when you dream that you see the glimpse of your destiny. And as a proverb says from Proverbs 29:18, where there is no revelation of destiny, people cast off restraint or will perish. If you don't know where you are going to, every road will take you there. If you don't know where you're going to, you lose self-control. You become undisciplined, but your vision helps to keep you focused. Your vision will inspire you. Vision building creates a gap between how things are and how things could be. This gap naturally invites creativity, innovation, and energy from you to close the gap. If you know where you're going to, you will choose which friends to walk with, which books to read, which TV programs to watch, and which seminars to attend. Orison Swett Marden once said, "Deep within a man dwell those slumbering powers, powers that would astonish him, that he never dreamed of possessing, forces that would revolutionize his life if aroused and put into action." You were not designed to be told what to do, how to do, and when to do it. You were designed to maximize yourself, motivated by your own internal passion and vision, to see yourself as all that you were born to be. This is God's desire. This command embodies the spirit of maximizing yourself. It implies that the average adult, through the process of growth and development, has lost the free-spiritedness of open-mindedness, inquisitivity, nature of dreaming, daring, and believing like a child. Children are inhabited by what they dream, and they tell you all about it. Some parents unfortunately kill their children's dreams. For example, a child may come and say, "I want to be the president of Uganda one day." And your response as a parent may be, "Shut up and settle down. Stop dead dreaming. Be like your daddy. Who do you think you are?" How sad. God dares you to explore and have an adventure in becoming the dream in your heart. It is also communicating from the heart of God the desire that He has for you to dream big and attempt what people say is impossible. Please note that your social and cultural environment will often work against your dreams and visions in your heart. As a matter of fact, we are trained mentally and spiritually to fear our dreams and doubt our own destiny. We are trained to be discouraged in believing that our passions for greatness is abnormal and our aspirations are suspect. The moment you start dreaming bigger than your colleagues, they don't want you anymore. It is amazing that people who don't want you to go anywhere want you to go with them. Misery likes company. don't keep company with it. The majority of us are under this spell and universal power that produces fear. This is a counter-development process in our society that goes contrary to our dreams. People are always afraid to believe their own dreams. Many experts in the field of human behavior say that fear is the cause of 90% lack of progress in life, and have stated that the fear of failure and fear of success are the two most powerful and most prevalent fears in the world. Strange and idle people are afraid to succeed. Why? Simple. Because they fear to step out into their dreams. Because if they succeed, they will lose their friends, families, contacts, relationships, and whatever else is there. When you become successful, people envy you. They become jealous of you, and you begin to lose touch with those who don't dream like you. Others are afraid to fail and so fear to step out. But remember, it is better to try and fail than never try and never know what you could have succeeded. Don't accept opinions about you because they do not create you. Only God knows how far you can go. When you accept other people's opinions about you, they imprison you by their opinions and trap you by their own limitations. Don't equate others' failures to you as a reason to abandon your dream. When you accept someone else's rationalization to justify their failure, you become a failure yourself. Ann Landers, a great columnist, used to receive over 10,000 letters each month from all over the world, and was asked by an interviewer what was the predominant problem in most of those letters. Her answer was fear. People always fear. They fear losing their homes, jobs, children, marriage, fiancés, money, and other things. Don't let your dreams to be trapped by fear. Some people fear to strive to their aspirations because they fear the responsibility and accountability that success brings. Don't live in a minimum performance mode. My dream is that each one of us live to the highest level, because inside us is the capacity and potential to be the very best that God intended us to be. You can make it. Don't be frustrated by your past failures or negative influences. Raise up from your fear, shake yourself, and become what you were born to be. The difference between a dream and reality is daring to achieve what you want. In Brazil, there was a young sculptor named Antonio Francisco Lisboa, also known as Alejandrino, who became world famous. Most of his works are studied in universities across the world. He produced what is called the eighth wonder of the world. He designed stone carvings of the 12 great prophets of the Bible, life-size statues still present in Brazil up to this day. People come from all over the world to find a little town across the valleys, mountains, and forests, just to find this little town where he lived. All the churches in the town are designed with altars of his beautiful, fantastic work. This sculptor was a cripple, and his father too was a sculptor. Antonio Francisco Lisboa had been struck with leprosy as a child, and before he was 11 years, he began to lose his limbs. But he wanted to become so much a sculptor, and so, using his father's tools and his hands, he started to sculpture. Even as his hands and limbs started to fall off, and the older he grew, the less hands and feet he had because of the leprosy, and the more difficult it became for him to do his work. But still, the more beautiful his work became. When he died without limbs and legs. Imagine this young cripple, dead with no hands and feet, and yet left evidence of the living dreams that lived inside of him. Now, imagine you with both hands, legs, and 20/20 clear vision. How can you leave nothing to show this world? Remember, you don't need to do everything and to be everything. You need only to decide to bring out the best of what you have. Just like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "If you can't be a pine on top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best scrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. For it is known by the size that you win or fail. Be the best at whatever you are." Shoot for the sun, and if the worst comes, you will land among the stars. This cripple, Antonio Francisco Lisboa, also known as Alejandrino, maximized his dreams, fulfilled his potential, and lived evidence of his generation, but also for our generation, evidence of the dreams that were within him. God does not want you to die until you accomplish what someone else cannot do. How to achieve your dream.
Here, the author gives 5 principles to allow you to get the best out of yourself and live an accomplished and purposeful life.
1. The first principle is to have a desire. This is usually in your heart. 2. The second principle is to lay the desire or that hope before you and expand that purpose or desire into a vision or a dream. This is usually in your mind, and if your mind does not comprehend, your hands will not act. With your vision, you have seen a destiny, and no mountain or ocean will hinder you. Why? Because you have seen the end. Remember, Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2 says, "For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross." Write down your vision. A vision written down, documented, is half fulfilled, and a good vision will appeal to all human aspects, physical senses, emotional needs, and spiritual quests. 3. The third principle is to be expectant. We refer to pregnant women as expectant. They are expectant because they're expecting something. The secret of success lies in us being pregnant with the desire to succeed, pregnant with the vision to our destiny. It doesn't help to have a desire or a vision without being pregnant with it. You have to own it and expect to deliver a live baby. Own the vision, dream it, speak it, eat it and live it. Let it grow on your inside until it affects your behavior. 4. The fourth principle is attitude. For your dream to come true, you need to have a positive mental attitude. You need to have the I can mentality, cast away dependence, slavery, mediocrity, discard that grasshopper worm nobody loses mentality. You can and you will. 5. The fifth principle is motivation. This means that you have to have the strength and enthusiasm to act on your dream. Motivation is the ingredient that propels us to action. The ability to believe is the foundation of motivation. This is the blazing talent of all famous and successful people. Belief, not reward, is the fuel that incites us to accomplish what the mind conceives. Motivated people have drive, direction, and purpose. They overcome fear, failure, laziness, lack of confidence, and complacency. Motivate yourself by reading books, watching programs, listening to speakers that will make you thirsty. Don't hang around negative, complaining people. Now, a closer look at the word dream unveils the 5 principles we have discussed above.
These 5 principles make the acronym DREAM. D for desire to, R, revelation of destiny, E, expectancy, A, attitude, M, motivation. These 5 principles make the acronym DREAM.
People will look beyond the murk and mire of their existence and fasten their eyes on the stars to rise each morning to the level of their vision, inspire and enthusiast others. You may not predict the future, but you can create it through your dream. When you achieve your dreams, the world becomes alive with the exhilaration of the moment. You can influence the world by getting a dream that you can pursue. Your dreams are the livings of your thoughts. They lift your thinking out of the commonplace and the ordinary. Belief and dedication motivate, but dreams inspire. Your dreams of tomorrow will make today's problems unimportant. Dreams take the dullness out of work, the aggression from problems, and the hopelessness from luck. Don't give up your dreams. The world needs them. Dream big and grow big. Dreamers never give up because they don't know even how to. If you can dream it, you can do it. And if you can do it, you can have it. Dream and get better, or else you will get very bitter. Verily, verily, I say to you, true dreams do come true. Keep dreaming, and we will meet on the other side of the bridge, because I too am dreaming. Remember, the difference between dreams and reality is daring to achieve what you want. So please, go for it. Legal realist Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, widely regarded as the wisest lawyer in American history, said, "Wanting to become a lawyer is divinely inspired." It is known that Holmes was a theologian, but he believed that there is a bit of divinity in the study of law, and one could ascertain in the study of precedents, for example, glimpse of unfathomable process, a hint of universal law, or echoes of the infinite. A lawyer's job is indescribable. His trade is enormous, his use infinite, and his purpose is immense. Little wonder Lord Robbins once said, "If a series of nuclear explosives were to wipe out the material equipment of the world, but the lawyer survived, it need not take long before the former standards were reconstituted. But if it destroyed the lawyers, even though it left buildings and the machinery intact, a period longer than the dark eyes made elapse before the former position was restored." In a book entitled Law, the author endeavored to give a multitude of the tasks lawyers are called upon to perform in society. He wrote, "If we reflect on the role that the law plays in our lives, both private, public, and social, we shall realize that without law, organized society as we understand it would be impossible, and that our health and happiness depended upon the legal system under which we live. To appreciate this, it may be enough to say that from the moment of our birth to the moment of our death, our lives are regulated by law between 2 legal documents, the birth and the death certificate. Our own well-being and our relationships with them governed by law. A newly born baby is invisibly but effectively protected by law. For it, the law will establish the safeguard, the rights of the parents and those who can take decisions for his or her education and upbringing later. The child will grow and feel his or her way into society. For no one can have a full life alone, as a hermit in a desert. He or she will also marry and raise a family of his or her own. If his or her own life becomes miserable, he or she may even seek a divorce. He or she will also work and acquire property. In all these cases, it is the law that will determine his or her rights and duties. Then, he or she may never come into contact with the court of law, but he or she will constantly use the services of the law, just as the healthy individual will have to follow the elementary rules of hygiene if he or she is to remain healthy. If he or she fails in these obligations towards society, it is the law which will protect the members of society from him or her. But we must go beyond the limited span of human life If we are to appreciate the full extent of the role of the law, further, law looks after our interests before birth. For example, there is a legislation for the protection of the expectant mother. Moreover, it is the law that secures the right of the unborn infant in regard to his or her personality, his or her rights of property, and cessation at the end. The law will take into account and regulate our wishes and interests after death, possibly long even after that. It's this immense responsibility that befalls a lawyer that one ought to prepare him or herself well for the trade, in order to serve the rural clientele effectively. The lawyer must be properly prepared through university and the law school. If trained properly, a lawyer should be able to do well and excel in any employment, whether in practice, managerial, administrative, consultative, advertisement, teaching, advisory, or even self-manship. The principle that governs law should be that the interests of the client should count more than any other consideration within the law, except the lawyer's own integrity and professional ethics. In other words, the personal prejudice and financial interests of the lawyer or interests of the persons or bodies other than the client must yield to the interest of the client. This code demands that as lawyers to be, you have to prepare exhaustively. This demands wide reading and extensive research. A lawyer should be able to read every book that comes his or her way, lest we are as being ignorant, and yet a lawyer should never plead ignorance. Ignorantia juris non excusant, meaning ignorance of the law is no excuse. There is a great man who once said, "The best way to hide something from black people, it is to put it in a book." This should not be the case for African lawyers. A good lawyer never pleads ignorance, for ignorance is the primary weapon of containment. Lawyers should never be found lagging behind with apathy and malice when they should be pointing the way, challenging the prevailing attitudes of mediocrity. As responsible leaders, they should never sit idle on the side of apathy and disinterest. Lawyers should be a clear voice of prophetic urgency to a blaze of trail through a social quagmire. As we do so, we should do it with diligence, for the heights that great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight. But they, while their companions slept, they were instead toiling upward into the night. Integrity should be part and parcel of our professional trade. Without integrity, a person is nothing. Take an example in ancient China, where the people desired security from the barbaric hordes of the north. So they built the Great Wall of China. It was so high they knew no one could climb over it, and so thick that nobody could break it down. So they settled back to enjoy their security during the first 100 years of the wall's existence. However, the first time China was invaded 3 times interestingly. Not once did the barbaric hordes break down on the wall or climb over it. History tells us that each time they bribed the gatekeeper, who opened the doors and allowed them to march right through the gates. They relied on the great wall of stone and neglected the gatekeeper of integrity. Therefore, people's gatekeepers to the immense troubles that people face should be full of integrity and never allowed to be compromised. As lawyers to be, we should not simply be ambitious, but true and sincere to our creed. Sir James N. Barrier said, "Ambition is the last infirmity of a noble mind." And as leaders, we are aware that the greatest leader is not the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets people to do the greatest things. We should keep desiring to learn. Alvin Joffre once said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be the individual who cannot read, but the one who cannot learn and relearn." Moreover, a good lawyer is not the one who knows the law, but the one who knows where to find the law. And as Justice Professor Dr. G.W. Kanyehamba rightly said, "The more I learn, the less I understand. so let us keep learning. It is only a fool who says, the less I know, the more I understand. Why do we call ourselves the learned friend? At least we address ourselves so. Lay people often wonder why only lawyers are called learned, when others like doctors, engineers, scientists, philosophers, and other professions spend years of hard study in their respective professions and disciplines. Lawyers have an unfair advantage over all other members of society, those who belong to other professions, but especially ordinary people. This is because lawyers are trained to understand and interpret the law, while on the other hand, it is assumed that all others simply know the law sufficiently to be able to walk within the confines of the law. The answer is there, on the other profession or disciplines. Whether it is in science, arts, or philosophy and religion, which is more concerned with so many facets of human endeavor than law. Moreover, it is only the lawyer who is fully trained and supposed to be endowed with certain facilities and techniques to enable him or her examine analytically and critically the works and opinions of members of all the other professions and disciplines, such as the doctors, scientists, engineers, social workers, politicians, astronomers, professional thieves, forgers, intellectuals, crooks, as well as religious gurus and fanatics, and pass judgments which are perfectly perceived and understood by the rest of mankind. The reverse, however, is not true. This is what makes lawyers tick. It's the lawyer who is told to seek the truth and seek that truth in a legal manner. This being the case, lawyers wield a formidable amount of power and are positioned to apply it either for the good of society or not. They also have the added advantage of commanding a great deal of respect in their communities because, rightly or wrongly, they are regarded as being imbued with extraordinary wisdom to defend others and adjudicate their disputes. And why friends? Because there is a principle of confidentiality between a lawyer and his clients. It is usually a friend that one trusts. Thus, a lawyer who accepts a brief from a client is bounded by professional ethics to treat that pass between them with the strictest of confidences. In American jurisprudence, Pa Johnny Caution used to be one of the best defense attorneys in the USA. There is a popular saying by lawyers that a lawyer does not have to believe that his client did or did not do a crime. The prosecutions have to prove it, and your job as a lawyer is to see that your client gets a fair and complete trial and the best defense that you can give him or her. Whether this is true or not is a matter of legal debate. However, Professor G.W. Kayehamba seems to disagree. He writes in an article and says, "The lawyer must accept his client's story as true, and if he or she does not, the lawyer should decline to represent the persons whose story he or she does not believe, except in cases where the person admits the facts and the lawyer is to represent him or her on quantum of damages or in mitigation." It's for this reason that a client must disclose everything about the case in which the advocate or lawyer is representing that client, hence the term friend. It is unfortunate, however, that there is a general cynical charge that all lawyers are liars, and the law and lawyers in general have been stereotyped with various names ranging from liars to clever. Needless to point out that many men or women who have made significant marks in history have been lawyers. People like Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and many other examples like Saul, also known as Paul, on whose apologetics the New Testament owes much of its existence. In spite of the tremendous contribution that lawyers make, many lawyers are being looked at with skepticism, beginning with Paul, whose much education did not escape the attention of the scribes of the time. In the classical Roman law period, the plebeians or the common people mistrusted the pontiffs who had the exclusive rights to interpret the law. Classical English writers such as Charles Dickens called the law an ass, an idiot. Shakespeare, the great English playwright, proclaimed that the first thing we do, let us kill all lawyers. Martin Luther King, the founder of the Protestantism, preached that someone was a good jurist but a bad Christian, forgetting that he himself was a good reformer but a bad Roman Catholic. To many laypersons, law seems to detach from real life, and their approach is often resistant and uncertain. Little wonder that A.G. Cronus wrote, "What the lawyers sometimes call the majesty of the law appears awe-inspiring to the other hand. The law and the lawyers are frequently shrouded by suspicion and distrust. It is not unusual to come up against the view that the law is something remote from life, that the less one has dealings with it, the better." To those who have lost cases, lawyers are considered liars and cheats. To those who have won, lawyers are considered clever and saviors. To those who have had to pay professional fees, lawyers are expensive. And to the rest of mankind, lawyers are creatures to be avoided or alternatively are to be seen as a necessary evil. Whether this respect is properly earned or not is another question. It is a sad truth that as lawyers, we have always acquitted ourselves well in this regard, so much so that the respect which we received may not be deserved. In many instances, it is not an earned respect, but rather respect that is assumed. The challenge that we have is to build a strong legal trusted culture, and no country can claim to be civilized, modern, developed or democratic unless it's grounded on the rule of law. More than this rule of law is a constitution and dynamic concept for which lawyers are primarily responsible, and which is intended to enable individuals realize the fundamental rights and freedom in a free society. This legal profession must remain a service and not be turned into a business for the highest bidder. Justice should not only be done, but also be seen to be done. And as Lord Birkenhead once said when claimed to be unfair, "We are the court of law and not a court of people's justice." Lawyers, whether in the corporate sector or as prosecutors, magistrates, attorneys, advocates or judges, can decide the fate of people, poor or rich alike. Lawyers can uplift and destroy the aspirations and rights of others even though they are powerful in their own occupations. If an attorney pleads the case of the poor by representing residents of an informal settlement and compassionate judge rules in their favor, the parties who are ordered to protect the rights of these squatters have no choice but to implement the court order. Part 4. Tough Minds. The Lawyer. American author Henry David Thoreau warned in 1849, "The lawyer's truth is not truth, but consistence of a consistent expendis." And in 1951's Main of Good Hope, author Daniel Aaron quoted American religious leader Theodore Parker's warning, "If powerful men will not write justice with black ink on white paper, ignorant and violent men will write it on the soil in letters of blood and illuminate their rude legislation with burning castles, palaces, and towns." Bernard Shaw once said that most men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that are not and ask why not. And in the poem Invictus, Ernest Henley once said, "I am a master of my fate, captain of my soul." Coretta Scott King, the wife of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., quotes her husband in a bid to explain her husband's philosophy of nonviolence from a sermon he preached of the interrelated structure of reality in his homily, "The Man Who Was a Fool." All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. In the sermon, Love in Action, Dr. King preached that one day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right if the head is totally wrong. Only through the bringing together intelligence and goodness shall man rise to the fulfillment of his true nature. Who doubts that this toughness of mind is one of man's greatest needs? Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard social thinking. There is almost a universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains people more than having to think. We need to have a tough mind, characterized by incisive thinking, realistic appraisal, and decisive judgment. One of the greatest needs of mankind, it is to be lifted above the morass of false propaganda. But we must not stop with the cultivation of a tough mind. We must have a tender heart. Tough-mindedness without tender-heartedness is cold and detached. Adolf Hitler realized that soft-mindedness was so prevalent among his followers that he said, "I use emotion for the many and reserve reason for the few." In Mein Kampf, he asserted, "By means of shrewd lies, unremittingly repeated, it is possible to make people believe that heaven is hell and hell heaven. The greater the lie, the more readily will it be believed." Tough-minded people always examine the facts before they reach conclusions. They post-judge. We are called to be people of conviction, not conformity, of moral nobility, not social respectability. We are commanded to live differently and accordingly to a higher loyalty. We are not makers of history. We are made of history. Longfellow once said,
"In this world, man must either be an anvil or a hammer,"
meaning that man is either a molder of society or molded by society. Who doubts today that most men are anvils and are shaped by the patterns of the majority, or to change the figure? Most people are thermometers that just simply record or register the temperature of the majority opinion, not thermostats that transform and regulate the society. Most people fear nothing more terribly than to take a position which stands out sharply and clearly from the prevailing opinion. Thomas Jefferson once wrote and said, "I have sworn upon the altar of God internal hostility against any form of tyranny over the mind of man." A person who blindly accepts the opinions of the majority and in fear with timidity follows a path of expenditure and social approval is a mental slave. James Russell Lowell wrote, "They are slaves who fear to speak for the fallen and the weak. They are slaves who will not choose hatred, scoffing, and abuse, rather than in silence shrink from the truth they must think. They are slaves who dare not be in the right with two or three." We need to be exemplary in life, or is a flashing light to plague the dozing consciousness of mankind. Nothing in the entire world is more dangerous than silence, ignorance, and conscious stupidity. Shakespeare once said, "For sweetest things turn soureth by their deeds. Lilies, they faster smell far worse than weeds." And philosopher Schopenhauer said,
"Life is an endless pain with a painful end, and life is a tragic comedy, played over and over again with only slight changes in costume and scenery."
Yes, and in Shakespeare's Macbeth, that life is an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The things I did in altruism, that is, regard for and devotion of the interest of others. I also did it for the sake of truth. William Cullen Bryant affirmed, "Truth crushed to earth will rise again." And Thomas Carlyle wrote, No lie you can speak or act, but it will come after long or short circulation like a bill drawn on nature's reality and be presented there for repayment. A lie will travel half around the world before the truth puts on its shoes, but the truth will always arrive there some many days before the lie. All of us need a hero, courageous, self-sacrificing people setting examples for us. Everybody needs a hero. People live with them, cheer them, and years later, they will tell how they stood up in the rain to wait for them for hours just to get a glimpse of someone who told them to hold on a second longer. I believe there is a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, giving us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and to give up the things we want the most, even our dreams. And at times, we wonder why the hero did that for us. For we wonder where he went and yet we are still in need of him. Friends, a name is all that you have when you come in the world, and a reputation is all that you will leave. Everything we have and everything we own, we owe to this noble man, the hero within us, called Obuntubulam. My cherished memory of this noble man in all of us and our love for this inner noble man shall not diminish. It shall not grow old, and as we are left to grow old, age shall not worry us, nor the years to condemn. As the going down of the sun and the rise in the morning, I will remember the days our path crossed and our lives touched forever in Obuntubulam. Lest I forget, if tomorrow has to be better today, I will not feel it too early to give up, too late to do anything else. I go now to fulfill my destiny, and if it requires my life, I do it gladly to sacrifice for my nation, and will do the job so well that the dead, the living, the unborn could not do it any better. So help us God. Part 5. Reflections. In the 1997 film The Devil's Advocate, a film based on a novel by Andrew Neiderman, was about a hotshot lawyer who gets more than he bargained for when he learns that his boss is Lucifer. We are advised that no matter how good you are, don't ever let them see you coming. Keep yourself small and innocuous. You have to marshal all your strength, prioritize, conserve your energy, and remember,
Diabro vintus illumbis ist,
meaning the virtues of the devil are in the loins. It is said in the film, the atheist can pull out any sort of person according to his mood or according to his subject matter: philosopher, scold, jester, raconteur, confident, pundit, devil's advocate, enthusiast. And one of the best advices, perhaps from this book, is look, but touch, but test, but don't swallow. In fact, we are also encouraged in the same book to be dissenters when appropriate, and leaders should have associates who have contrary views, who are the devil's advocates, variant censors who can tell them the difference between what they want to hear and what they need to hear. There are too many naked emperors running around today, but we are also warned to not be confusing playing devil's advocate with being intelligent. An avant-garde, meaning never have to say sorry when your instinct says so. And lastly, never play the devil's advocate. Your words could be the difference between success and failure in someone's life. In the law movie, How to Get Away with Murder, Annalise Keating begins class by saying,
"Unlike other professions, I will not be teaching how to study the law or theorizing about it, but rather how to practice."
I would like to agree with her that the essence of anything that I would like any of us to take away is to live the law. In the book Satan's Advice to Young Lawyers by Alistair Lovecraft, the author argues that lawyers are a pithy guide to rising from lowly and there is no denying it. Satan has the legal landscape. Sir Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Great Britain and one of the greatest statesmen in the political arena, charismatic leader and war hero of his time, also remembered for baptizing Uganda as the Pearl of Africa, was once invited to give a speech to students who were so anxious and very expectant to hear from such a renowned orator. Of course, the man who introduced him on how lucky they were to have this one-in-a-lifetime experience. He entreated them to have loads of paper to jot down, for every word that Churchill was about to say would be extremely important, and so that they became very expectant to listen for long hours and write a lot. To everybody's surprise, Sir Churchill, on being invited, stood up and gave the following speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, students and invited guests, never, never, never give up.
And at that, he sat down. That was it. He had finished his long-awaited speech. That speech has come out to be one of the greatest speeches in the history of mankind. The lesson in life is that all you need to do is never, never give up. Also remembered for similar is Sun Tzu, who said, "Life is a constant war, and all warfare is based on deception." Sir Winston Churchill, who said,
"In times of war, sometimes the truth becomes so precious that it must be guarded with the bodyguard of lies."
The lesson in this is that learn to keep your secrets. In the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese general, military strategist and philosopher, he advised that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. If you know the enemy and yourself, you need not to fear the result of 100 battles. And to know your enemy, you must become your enemy. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable at night. And when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirm their projections. It settles them in the predictable pattern of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment that they cannot anticipate. Marcus Garvey once said, "The world has made black to be a crime. I intend to make it a virtue. Whatever you desire and dream, make it a virtue regardless." We are called to follow our instincts and conscience in Harperlee's To Kill the Mockingbird. The protagonistic Anticus teaches us, it is said that the one thing that does not abide by majority rule is a person's conscience, and that you can never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around it. And people generally see what they look for and hear what they listen for, so in life, delete the adjectives and you will have the facts. So I guess the question then becomes, why is it a sin to kill the mockingbird? Mockingbirds don't do one thing except make music for us to enjoy. They don't eat up people's gardens. They don't nest in corn cribs. They don't do one thing but sing their hearts out for us. That's why it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. In George Orwell's book, The Animal Farm, he paints through a somewhat correct picture that all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast to catch rabbits, yet he is the Lord of all animals. Ben Shylock's The Godfather uses Mario Puzo, among other things, to teach us that friendship is everything. Great men are not born, but the great, they grow great. Never hate your enemies. It only affects your judgment. For revenge is a dish that tastes best when served cold. And a friend should always underestimate your virtues, and an enemy overestimate your faults, and that finances again, Politics is knowing when to pull the trigger, and that the lawyer with the briefcase can steal more money than the man with the gun. In a moral, cunning, ruthless, and instructive book called 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, we learn that, among other things, that power cannot accrue to those who squander their treasures of words. Power is in many ways a game of appearances, and when you say less than necessary, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you are. Learn the lesson. Once the words are out, you can't take them back, so keep them under control. I now implore you to remember the words of the great poet William Ernest Henley in his poem Invictus.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank wherever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I haven't winced, nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shed, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Robert F. Kennedy said it all in his famous speech, Reaper of Hope. He sends forth a thin reaper of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, and darling those reapers that can carry down the mightiest wall of oppression and resilience. Even so, in the mindset of turbulence and the struggle is great hope for the future, and hope is always on the way. This extract from the chapter 3 of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe says it all. The year that Okonkwo took 800 seed yams from Nkakibye was the worst year in living memory. Nothing happened in its proper time. It was either too early or too late. It seemed as if the world had gone mad. The first rains were late, and when they came, they only lasted a brief moment. The drought continued for 8 market weeks, and the yams were killed. The year had gone mad. When the rains finally returned, they fell as hard as never had fallen before. The trees were uprooted, and the deep gorse appeared everywhere. That year, the harvest was sad, like a funeral, and many farmers wept as they dug up yams. One man tied his cloth to a tree branch and hanged himself. Okonkwo remembered that tragic year with a cold shiver. It always surprised him when he thought about it later, that he did not sink under the load of despair. He knew he was a fierce fighter, but that year had been enough to break the heart of a lion. Since I survived that year, he always said, I shall survive anything. Hang in there, you'll overcome. Fight every oppression and every tyranny, for tyranny is never actualized until slaves started cheering the oppressor. In the early days of slavery, the slaves in the USA were becoming rebellious to their masters until the slave owners sought advice from a ruthless slave owner in the West Indies called Willie Lynch. His methods were so diabolic that the word lynch came from his other name. He would often get the black man, the nigger as they called him, stripped him of all his clothes, tear off his skin in front of the other niggers, beat him until his life is about to end, tie his legs on horses to 2 opposing directions, set fire under him and beat the horse to tear him apart in opposing directions. All this he did in front of all the other niggers. He advised them, beat them to 1 inch of life, but do not kill them. Put the fear of God in them for they would be using it for the future breeding. The idea was to keep the body, but take the mind. Part 6. Edification. Here is now a wonderful prayer by Saint Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. And meditate on this other prayer by an unknown author.
I asked God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked God for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing I asked for, but everything I hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am, among all men, most richly blessed.
My task now is to provoke you to find and keep your righteous mind. So here is another poem for you to ponder on. It's by Rudyard Kipling and it's called If. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for your doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or be lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knives to make a trap for fools, or watch the things that you give your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foul nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son. Lastly, I pray that you all find comfort in the words of this great psalmist. Here now are a few psalms to meditate on and to motivate you to go for what you want. Psalms 144.
Blessed be the Lord my strength, which teacheth my hands to war and my fingers to fight. My goodness, my fortress, my high tower, and my deliverer, my shield, and he in whom I trust, who subdueth my people under me.
Psalms 121, verse 1 to 4.
I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from whence comes my help. My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep.
Finally, I dedicate the poem, My Soul Has a Heart, to all the listeners of this book. My Soul Has a Heart by Mario Giandrade. I counted my years and realized that I have less time to live by than I have lived so far. I feel like a child who won a pack of candies. At first, he ate them with pleasure, but when he realized that there was little left, he began to test them intensely. I have no time for endless meetings, where the statutes, rules, procedures, and internal regulations are discussed, knowing that nothing will be done. I no longer have the patience to stand beside people who, despite their chronological age, have not grown up. My time is too short. I want the essence. My spirit is in a hurry. I do not have much candy in the package anymore. I want to live next to humans, very realistic people who know how to laugh at their mistakes and who are inflated by their own triumphs and who take responsibility for their actions. In this way, human dignity is defended and we live in truth and honesty. It is the essentials that make life useful. I want to surround myself with people who know how to touch the hearts of those whom hard strokes of life have learned to grow with sweet touches of the soul. Yes, I am in a hurry. I am in a hurry to live with the intensity that only maturity can give. I do not intend to waste any of the remaining desserts. I'm sure they'll be exquisite, much more than those eaten so far. My goal is to reach the end, satisfied and at peace with my loved ones and my conscience. We have two lives, and the second begins when you realize that you have one. By Mario de Andrade, who lived in São Paulo, Brazil from 1893 to 1945.